Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
You have myself, Stephen George. Sorry about that. I forgot to press the button.
It's Sunday the 27th of July 2014. Good evening. Hello everyone. How are you doing? We had a very busy week. Loads of things going on. Loads of things to talk about, which we're going to touch base on in a few minutes. Our guest on tonight, we were planning to have a pre-record of Ian O'Crane, but unfortunately we had planned to do it on Thursday night and Ian got his dates wrong, and so we missed each other, and so we're going to try and organise it for another time. It just seems to be, when we look for somebody to talk about the subject of fracking, nobody seems to want to talk about it. Very strange. This is the second time. I don't know what's going on, but they don't seem to want to talk about fracking for some reason. So if you do know anybody out there that has experience or knows about it and wants to come on and talk about it, by all means, get them to get in touch with us. Send us an email at info@oymradio.com and we'll be happy to have a chat with them about fracking. So our guest on tonight will be Ben Gilroy. Now, Ben is actually travelling at the moment, so he'll be with us momentarily. In a few minutes he'll come on, so we'll pop over to Ben. But before we get Ben on, as usual, we have a few things to go through and talk about, and Steve's going to kick us off with that.
Okay, communication channels first, please, Mary.
The communication channels are email info@oymIreland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 046 927 1212 is the magic number for the magic roundabout that is OYM Radio. We also have the guest book. You can log on to the website there, leave a message. At least I think we still have the guest book anyway. We also have the chat room. There's several people in the chat room already, so a big hi to all of you. And if you want to get to the chat room to ask questions of Ben this evening, or even ourselves or whatever, just log on to oymradio.com. On the left hand side you will see the live chat button. You can just click on there and log in with a real name or a makey-uppy one. And just before I pass it back to Alan, a big hi to Janine, who's there with Chris this evening. She's home from Sydney. I hope you're enjoying the Irish summer. It doesn't compare to a Sydney summer, I bet. But hi to Janine anyway. Alan.
Right, Steve, well, you're going to tell us about the Gardai, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I love the Gardai. The Gardai have now abandoned the Irish Constitution, or so it seems, and we are now in a totalitarian country. Reverend Rashers, a good friend of OYM's, that's Andrew from Mullingar, was forcibly removed from his dwelling, his home, on Wednesday. The only people that can make a difference are the people of Ireland themselves. Do not expect justice anymore, because there is none. There's no justice in the courts and no justice at all. The Gardai certainly will not enforce the Constitution. They've been bought and paid for by the big corporations. That's how it seems. We're not saying they're all bad people, but what we've seen during the week there with Reverend Rashers, that's again Andrew from Mullingar, it certainly seems like the Gardai have been bought and paid for.
Definitely. I mean, they'll obviously help with evictions and evict families from their homes, and obviously help with Dennis O'Brien and his water company. But obviously, when it comes to actual justice and dealing with the Constitution and the law, they don't seem to be interested. So I reckon that we are in a totalitarian country at the moment. So, a bit of bad news, but if we do get any update about Andrew, we'll let you know as well. I'm sure Vin will probably have some information. He might tell you that later on his show on what's happening with Andrew as well. Now, there was a man in a newspaper called the Tallaght Echo, and he's challenging Irish Water regarding the safety of the water meters and regarding the radiation levels. If anybody knows this chap, can you get him to contact us at OYM, because I believe that he's looking for information regarding the dangers of the wireless meters. And of course, as you know in OYM, that's one of our subjects. Oh, I'm going to pass you over to Steve. We'll go for you a bit of music. Somebody's calling us there for a minute, and we'll be back after this. Okay, that was just a quick phone call from Ben. He's just tied up there. It'll be another 20-25 minutes. So
he can't undo the knots.
He can't undo the knots. So and that's fine, because we have a few things to talk about anyway, as usual. Catch up during the week, and then we'll give him a ring on the old phone. But yeah, this man in Tallaght, he was in the Tallaght Echo newspaper, and he's looking for information. He wants to take on Irish Water regarding the dangers, the radiation levels from the water meter. So if anybody knows that man, if we can get in touch with it, with him, or he can email us, that would be fantastic. It'd be great to do that. Steve?
Yeah, I've seen that article as well. Now, the only thing I can say in relation to that article, both Alan and I, from the research we've done into the water meters, they're not like the smart meters that seem to be doing the rounds, like in the likes of America and stuff, where they're active smart meters and they're transmitting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The ones that we have over here, well, certainly the ones that we've seen and the information that we've seen, the ones that are going in from Irish Water, they're called passive. So it means that they're still technically smart meters, but only when they're activated. So if someone is driving around, they'll have a device which will activate the meter, take a reading, and then once they get the reading, the device goes back to sleep. The smart meter goes back to sleep. So it's passive and it's not active. Now, again, you know, maybe they're putting in different ones in different places. I don't know. Yeah, and also the banks. If you remember last week, we were talking about the banks, that, you know, something may happen on the 20th. Well, nothing happened at all, and they stayed open. And I think we were all kind of expecting, with bated breath, that maybe something would kick off. Barack Obama would come out. We were actually waiting after the show there last week that maybe Obama would come on Sunday evening on the news and make some sort of announcement, and then the banks will be closed here the following day. But no, nothing happened at all. It's business as usual, really. Again,
we're talking about dates. Another way, we're always giving dates. So and we always say the same thing, you know, look, take it with a pinch of salt. There's the date, but take it with a pinch of salt, because we've had dates come and go all the time, and nothing has happened. But at the same time, it could be the boy that cried wolf as well, so you have to be careful of that. Now, I don't know whether you're aware, you probably are aware, that fracking has started to take place in Fermanagh, in Northern Ireland. Documents have been distributed to householders in the Belcrow area from Tamburan Resources, Tamburan Resources UK Limited, that's the company. And they are, I believe there was big demonstrations and people up there just demonstrating regarding the fracking and to stop it. And again, in Barton Mossov in the UK, Crane has been involved in trying to stop the fracking there and supporting people. And this is having devastation in a lot of places, a lot of countries that have had fracking work. I mean, some people are having water that is catching fire because the gas in there, and then there's other dirt coming out from the water as well. You can't drink it, you can't touch it, and everything else. And of course, they want us to pay for this. I mean, it's just gone ludicrous. It's just gone mad. So, a big support for the people up in Fermanagh who's been, out there and campaigning against the fracking, and best of luck really for doing that. Steve.
Yeah, I want to say a big well done to Claire, Daly, TD, and also Mick, Wallace, TD, for doing what all our TDs should be doing, and that is investigating and wanting to inspect a US military plane to see if it was carrying weaponry. We are, after all, supposed to be a neutral country, and is Shannon being used by the US as a military base? There's a good question.
Well, there you go. Fair play. See, that's what we call a politician. That's what fair play to Claire, fair play to Mick Wallace for going down there with the high-vis jackets on, going over to check out the plane, because we are supposed to be neutral and we're not supposed to have any military aircraft landing in Shannon, and yet to get arrested. I mean, it just boils my blood knowing that all these parasites are in government and they just are, bend over backwards. Now, I don't know what the stance is with the Irish government regarding Israel. I don't know if anybody's heard anything. Are the Irish government supporting Israel, or are they going to support Palestine? I haven't heard anything. But knowing our government and knowing Enda Kenny, he's going to be, kissing the arse of people of Israel, more than likely. I mean, what's going on there is just ridiculous, it really is.
He's going to be kissing the ass of whoever it is who's paying the wages.
Yeah, exactly. Well, funny enough, we had somebody on the chat room there, blah, 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 talking about Neil Keenan, and we're just going to talk about that. Neil Keenan said in a statement that, I have sufficient research to show that MH17, which is the Malaysian plane that was taken down last week, was 200% a false flag event that had no connection to the Russian president's aircraft. All of the details shown by various cabal-controlled media are totally false and simply do not add up. And I think we can all accept that fact. We can see a false flag exactly before it comes these days. He says, I have sufficient personal experience to prove both were false flags and that the evidence in both cases is bogus. Yes, they want World War III. What better way to rub up the Russians into some sort of conflict? We should bring China and the BRIC countries into the fray. What better way for the US to clear its IOU with China, its main provider of finances, by going into conflict, boosting arms sales and putting up the price of fuel? Job done, except to say the US is no longer capable of fighting such a mammoth consortium. I will not offer the proof right now, but documentation shown via the media is false. Aircraft details are false. I need to keep it close to my chest as the false flag details keep changing. So there you go. So Neil Keenan and a group of guys, one of them called Peter Eyre, which we will hope to have on the show in a few weeks' time. Peter's actually travelling in Australia at the moment, so we can't really get him. But we have been in communication with him and we've asked him to come on. And there's a group of guys, he's a journalist, Peter, a group of guys working with the Dragon family over there, apparently in China, to bring down the system along with the BRICS countries. So there is an awful lot going on, and there are a lot of people standing up to the system and trying to bring it down. And I do believe that these people are struggling. The New World Order, Illuminati, or whatever you want to call them, they are struggling because everybody seems to be going against them now, especially with the new G133 or 177 countries. They had a big meeting recently. We put it up on the Facebook page on OYM, and there's loads of information there about what's going on, so that was quite interesting. Steve?
Yeah, I was looking at the internet there yesterday evening, and again, you know, the first flight of the MH plane didn't really, I didn't really spend too much time on it, but then when the second plane was shot down, or well, crashed during the week, allegedly shot down, I just kind of started looking around the net and just to see what the dogs on the street were saying, so to speak. And there's a lot of evidence out there. It seems that there is evidence out there to support the theory that it was a false flag. But one guy actually went into on a particular web page yesterday, went into great detail, showing pictures of both planes, something to do with the allocation of windows on one of the models. I think it was a later model. The seat allocation was changed so that one of the windows was blocked out underneath the flag. And I think there was a toilet put in there. There was something anyway. But he goes into great detail. To read the whole article would have taken, I'd say, it took me about 40 minutes to go through everything. But it's fantastic. I mean, I don't know if it's true. Again, it's all kind of speculation. It's all theory at the moment until it's proven otherwise. But wow! But I think that there were people on the ground when that happened, and they were saying that some of the bodies, you know, within minutes after the crash, after it was found, they were saying that some of the bodies seemed like they had been dead for a while. And
decomposed for longer than the period of time.
And they're saying that for them to be in that particular state, they would have happened to have been dead a couple of days before the plane took off.
And Jerry has a relevant question. Where did the passengers go then? We don't know, Jerry. Don't know the full spec. We don't know the false flag. But
everything you seem to see, that base, Diego Garcia, comes up a lot. I'm not saying that's where they are, but that does come up a lot on a lot of these pages. There's
a lot of kind of coincidence going on, but I'm sure the truth will come out soon, and eventually it will pop out there.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, you're going to tell us about the...
I want to say, don't forget, for anyone who has or knows somebody who may be suffering from cancer, we're still looking for 3 more patients that have not used mainstream treatment and would like to try the alternative method with Dr. Rima Lebeau. So we did mention it a couple of weeks ago. I think we mentioned it maybe last week or the week before as well, and we're just going to mention it, you know, tonight and probably again next week until we get 3 more people, because I think we do have 2 people who are possibly on board, and I think they've already hooked up with Dr. Lebeau. So we need 3 more people. If you know someone suffering from cancer who has either doesn't want to go down the mainstream road, or who has given up on the mainstream road, give us a shout. They may be interested, and they may be suitable for the process.
For the project, yeah. Okay.
The project.
Now, there's a new software website being set up called Unseen.is. Now, this Unseen.is website is apparently located in Iceland, so it can't be touched, and it's encrypted. And it's a bit apparently like Facebook. Now, I did set up an account and log in just to kind of have a nose around, and you could set up a community and etc., etc. Now, apparently it's free to log in and use, but to be a premier user is $20, I think, for 1 year, and for a lifetime member it's $79 So they're based in Iceland, heavily encrypted in order to deter government spying interception. You get chat, email, video chat, voice chat. You can create groups without anyone else controlling what you post, other than the creator of the group. Of course, who can delete comments and so forth. 100% privacy. When everything on the net is totally taken over, Unseen will be standing. Government can't touch it because the servers are in Iceland. Now, I don't know, I had a quick look at it. Unseen.is is the website, and the actual domain name is hosted in Iceland. I'll check that out as well. Might be an idea for you to pop over and just have a look and see what you think from a chat point of view. I don't know whether we could use it in OYM, because the fact that you'd have to everybody would have to pay €20 or $20 to actually have an account to use it as a chat facility, and I can't see that happening. But from a personal point of view, to move away from Facebook maybe and set up your own group to have a encrypted chat, then it might be a good idea to do that, you know. But Steve, how's your week?
Yeah, hang on, I'm just looking at this here, and yeah, it's a nice flashy page. The one thing that just popped into my mind was, what if this Unseen.is is being promoted as a way to get away from all the spying, but it could be set up by the CIA for all we know?
Oh yeah, it could, yeah. But the Unseen.is?
Yeah.
It could be. It could be. Look, we don't know. I mean, you don't know these days the way things are, so you just, take it for what it is,
Yeah. Okay, well, how was my week? Yeah, anyone who was in the chat room earlier may have seen a couple of links up the top. I was asked last week about the photograph, or the sign that I have outside my home that was there present when Irish Water arrived, the sign that kind of deterred them, and they all at separate times came up and read. If you scroll up to the top of the chat, there are 3 pictures up there of the sign. There's a kind of a far away, near to it, and a close-up as well. So if anyone's interested in that. There's also a picture up there of a letter. This whole thing in relation to the property tax is still going on, and anyone who is in Ireland would know that a lot of the letters were signed by Mr. Michael Gladney. Well, I've been passed on from Michael Gladney to Brian O'Connor now, and Brian sent me a lovely letter there during the week, and again the image of that is up towards the top of the chat. You can see it there. You can check that out as well. And I don't bother really when I do reply to these. I don't bother using stationery, my own stationery. I just use the one that they've sent me and then send it back to them. It works out cheaper in the end. What else? Alan often mentions on the show about Rich Planet. That's richplanet.net. And I've seen some of it before, but I wouldn't watch a lot of Richard Hall. Not for any particular reason, but I've other things to be doing. But I did see a video during the week there on subversion techniques in media and TV shows. And so, again, I did pop a link in there this morning. It is up on the top of the chat room. And I think the video is about 40 minutes long. For the first maybe 20-25 minutes, he is talking about subversion techniques. I found it absolutely fascinating. We all kind of know what they're doing with TV shows and the way they portray the news, but the way he puts a spin on it, it made a lot of sense. It was very, very easy, and even someone whose mind is only beginning to open will be able to digest this no problem. Yes, Richard Hall is brilliant, says I'm Awake. Yes, and speaking of news articles, there was a news article allegedly saying, this is from the RTE, Radio Television Éireann, or the Rothschilds Trivial Entertainment here in Ireland. There's a news article allegedly saying that a woman was on screen as saying that she will happily strap an explosive device and go to war. This is a woman over, and I think it's to do with the whole Gaza thing that's going on over there. But someone, I think she spoke in whatever language it was, I can't remember, but the news reporter said that that's what she said. She was saying that she'd strap a bomb and she'd happily go to war. But someone, one of the listeners, or the watchers, I suppose, to the news broadcast, spoke the language, or knew someone who spoke the language, and they translated it. And the woman didn't say that at all. Seemingly, what she said was something to do with that all the kids are dying. That's all. It's just the kids are dying, and where is the religion? That's what she said. She didn't seemingly say anything at all about strapping an explosive device and going to war. And what else? The only other thing that I seen there, and actually I just seen this before I left the house this evening, an independent.ie. This is supposed to be the online version of the Irish Independent newspaper, and they do say that a top barrister in child sex abuse claims has been arrested I was quite interested in that, and I said I might see what that's about, maybe throw it around on the show this evening. But when I clicked on the link just went to a blank page, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe the link is down, but the rest of their sites seem to work. So
well, Ben put that up from people from Economic Justice, and I put a comment up and I said this might open up the floodgates, because if one starts, then another one might start, and another one might start.
With a bit of luck,
like what's happened in the UK, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much all that's been on my radar for the week. Again, the pictures are up on the top of the sign. I know somebody wanted it last week. And the letter is there as well, as I say, in relation to the revenue. So if anyone wants to have a look at that, maybe if you have any comments on it, if you think there's anything I should add to what I've already written on the bottom or take away, just drop us an email. And thanks very much. Alan, how was your week?
Okay, do about a few things. A female friend of mine that myself and Steve know, I won't be mentioning any names, was sexually attacked at Easter in Navan. And the guy who did it is still walking around, and the Gardai don't seem to be doing anything about it. Now, there was an article in the newspaper where they're saying that any kind of sexual assault won't be dealt with until November 2015.
You're joking.
No, she kept ringing and calling into the station to ask when he would be arrested, but they gave out to her and told her to stop asking. So this guy is still walking around in Navan, and in the newspaper it said, according to the Gardai, they won't be dealing with anything, any sexual assaults or anything like that until November 2015. So I made a comment saying that's because there's no revenue involved. If there was revenue involved, you can be guaranteed they'd be doing something. But because there's no revenue involved, we're not really interested. So, unfortunately we can't mention names. She has given me information as to who the person was, but we can't mention any names just yet until it actually, it might affect the case if the case eventually gets to court. So, but just to let you know that that's really what's happening, and she's not the only one. Apparently, there's another girl who commented on Facebook, who also said that she was also attacked. I'm not too sure whether it was by the same guy. But it's just interesting that that's going on. Another thing that happened during the week, another female friend of mine was sent a €150 fine by a litter warden.
For what?
Right. Now, I sent over the sanitised fine over to Vin. Vin has it on PIR. And basically her car was mentioned in the paperwork. So apparently her car was driving down this road, and he must have seen some paper fly out. You know the way you have your window open and paper might fly out of your window?
Yeah, it's usually £20 notes I keep on the dashboard.
Right. So something like that, or could have been maybe one of our kids threw out a piece of paper. But anyway, he spotted this, took a registration plate, and sent a fine to her in the post that an alleged offence with no evidence, just a demand for money with a squiggly like sign for Prince, just a sign.
Yeah.
Squiggle for a signature in black. I mean, talk about Agenda 21 chat. He could write any fine and squiggle it and send it to you, and you'd be thinking, hang on, when did this happen? I don't remember this. So the sanitised version's gone off to Vin, so Vin to have a look at it. But just be warned, there's now litter wardens gone around fining you, or trying to fine you €150 from Louth County Council. So, and there's no evidence, there's nothing supplied, just the fine itself. So, needless to say, we're going to be taking that and challenging Louth County Council and asking them for the evidence and everything else to go with it, because, that's just not on. He could write that and then send it to loads of people and they get loads of money, So it's not going to happen. Now, the other thing, quickly, last thing on the list, was in 2003, the United States Geological Survey downgraded the Richter scale by 1 point, which means in the last 10 years the earthquakes have been one higher, but unknowns to us because the USGS dropping it down by 1 point. They did this to hide the fact that air changes are taking place and will get worse, and the air changes are taking place. There's a lot of things going on at the moment. Yellowstone apparently is still closed and getting worse. I don't know whether people have seen that, but it's worthwhile checking it out. And this is what they're doing. They're changing the system. So when you actually go, you think, oh, it's the same as it was, 20 years ago. Well, they're changing the scale so people won't notice it. So there's major changes going on. But, so just to look out for that, go to YouTube and type in Yellowstone and just have a look at the reports that are on there. How are we doing? Is Ben ready there? I don't know if there's a message there in Skype if he's we'll go to a bit of music then, and what we'll do is we'll go to a bit of music, and then what we'll do is we'll get Ben on, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, we're back. A little bit of Frankie Goes to Hollywood there, and relaxing. Let's just hope Ben Gilroy is nice and relaxed there this evening, because we're nice and relaxed. We're going to have a nice informal chat about a few things. Okay, no problem. Ben, are you there?
Hey Alan, how are you?
Hey, not too bad. Good evening. How are you doing?
Oh, good.
Good stuff. I know you're up to your eyes at the moment because there's a few things on your plate at the moment, which we'll talk to you about, or what you can talk about. First things first, priority is, how's your daughter?
She's okay in the sense, she has leukemia. She's getting some chemo, and it's making her sick some of the days, and the hair is obviously shaved. This morning she seemed full of beans, and we were going off, and she just went over and vomited in the field and came back, and she was grand again. And that's the sort of the way she is. She never made much of a fuss about getting sick anyway,
Yeah, it's bad enough for an adult, but you never wish it on a child,
No, well, that's it. If I would take the sickness myself, I'd do it,
Yeah, no, listen, I totally agree with you. Myself and Steve being dads as well, we know what it's like. Well, listen, tell us about the fundraiser that you're doing, or the event that you're doing in Trim.
Yeah, that's actually been organised by a couple of friends of mine. They just asked if I mind if they did it, and of course I didn't, because I'd appreciate it. So they're doing a fundraiser on the 15th of next month. So it's basically a band out at the Trim Castle Hotel, and sure, we'll have a few drinks and a bit of a chat and see what happens,
Okay, and can people donate and do all that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. And only people that have it to donate. I'm not asking anybody to do anything extraordinary or anything
No.
The tickets are a tenner to come to the do, and hopefully you enjoy yourselves, and if you can't, sure, look, best wishes would be great even,
Yeah, no problem. And where can they get the tickets, Ben?
I think they get them through the hub in Dublin, if they contact the hub page or anything like that, or I'm sure I'll put numbers up on my Facebook as well for people who want to find out where to get tickets. So we're hoping it'll be a good night anyway. I could do with a drink, to be honest. I'm not a drinker, but something tells me I might take one or two on the night.
Okay, well look, that's understandable. I think with everything else that's on your cards at the moment, you have to deal with. Steve, you want to mention it there?
Yeah, I just have some information here, Ben, about the do. If people are interested in tickets, you can get them from the Trim Castle Hotel. You can also get them from the hub in 21 Little Mary Street in Dublin. And there's a couple of phone numbers here for anyone who needs details. So if they have a pen handy, we'll call those out now. We'll also mention it again at the end of the show. But it's 087 066 1971 and 087 257 6637 for anyone who wants to get more information on that.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. You had more information than I had. And as I say, I appreciate anybody who can put their hand in their pocket, because I know how tough it is for people out there. Obviously I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're going to obviously go into that. First and foremost, the first question on the list, and we kind of touch base off air during the week, the Irish TV show that you've been working on. Obviously, I'm sure there's a few people saying we haven't had a part 3 or 4 for a while. Can you give us an update on what's going on there?
Yeah, well, we obviously took a break because we want to get some more guests involved, and we need a few people to kind of help in the show. When we started it, we thought it was going to be handy to do, and there's actually a lot of work in the background. We're also building a new set because we want to have it like more a debate, because I'm kind of too easy on people in that sense. And what we want to do is we want to have like a Vincent Brown table, if you like, where we can have at least 5 people sitting at the table. So maybe 2 either side of me in case there'll be a row, or I'll try to sit down in the end and have 4 on the table. But it's basically to have not so much an opposing view to what's being put there, but maybe just to hear what the other side have to say. So, you know, if we want to talk about geoengineering and chemtrails and stuff like that, I'm not well up on that. So I'm not fully bought on the idea, but they're definitely spraying something.
Yeah, well, that's a good
So
one,
I'd like to tease it out and be devil's advocate to both sides, you know. And I'd like to have a discussion on abortion, and I'd like to have a discussion on fluoride. I think fluoride should be taken out of water. I don't believe it should ever been in water. And I noticed the local Phoenix Fall guy, when he was running in the election here, he must have been looking at my Facebook tweets, and I see he was against fluoride, and he was against repossessions, and, you know, he was into death right down and on. It just kind of made me laugh. But at least, if that's the effect we have in politics, that even if we never get into it, that we affect change by doing that, that's still good. That was my goal. My goal was never to become Taoiseach or anything, so...
No, but it's good to see the likes of Claire Daly and Mick Wallace doing what they're doing down in Shannon, and Luke Flanagan in Europe causing a storm over there. That's what I call a TD, standing up for your people. That's the way your TD should be.
But that's what they're being paid for. I mean,
exactly.
You know, you expect nothing less from it. It's just in this country we're comatose. Whether it be true fluoride or ignorance or I'm all right, Jack, or Q-hourism, whatever it is, you know, we just accept the very worst. And we have this sort of Asher, begobs and begorra, what can you do about it? And, you know, that's not good enough. It's not good enough for our children. Even if it's good enough for ourselves, it's not good enough for our children, because what sort of society are we going to leave for them, and what sort of freedoms will be left for them if we don't stand up? So, you know, and when you actually start standing up, it's quite an enjoyable trip. It's not as bad as people make out, you know.
Well, I think it's for people who have that attitude, are probably people that can afford to live in their home and pay the bills and are quite comfortable. Because I know people who don't have the money.
I don't resent them people. It's just, you know, I suppose from their point of view, they maybe don't see the problem. You know, they're caught in a sort of 9-to-5 rat race. And as you say, they still might be on good wages, but it's still, you know, they have to go to bed early, to get up early, to get the kids to school or to the childminders, and then there's the pressures of work, because if they're getting good money, I'm sure there's pressures in their job, and then they get home and they may go to the gym, and then they might come back and they record at Coronation Street, and then it's to bed again, and they don't see anything beyond their hall door. And I sort of understand that as well. It's not that they're maybe even couldn't care, or they're, you know, it might not even be an I'm all right, Jack. It's just, I think everybody's the same as me, maybe, sort of attitude, you know. Yeah,
no, I've been down that road where you're working so hard and you're working all different hours. Yes, you're getting paid for it, but you don't have much of a life.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, so you have
some of the most unhappiest people I've ever met are the richest people I've ever met.
Yeah, exactly. It's not all about money. You know,
no.
It really isn't.
I know somebody said to me one time, you could be miserable in comfort, but anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, listen, as I said during the week about the radio show, we'll talk about that, because issues that we'd like to see on there would be the likes of the dangers of the Wi-Fi, and we have, you know, expert scientists like Barry Trower, who would, I mean, he's an expert witness, and he has said to us that you get me in front of your scientists, he said, I'll tear them apart. You know, basically, and he is an expert in his field and what he does. Plus, we have medical doctors, qualified medical doctors, who come on and tell the people the truth about the pharmaceutical industry and what's going on.
Yeah, and I'd like to, you know, have discussions, obviously, about leukemia and all types of cancers, and somebody was saying that even the Wi-Fi may have caused that, or, you know, because the doctors were telling us in the hospital they don't really know what causes leukemia.
Yeah, well...
and there's also a new incinerator built in Daly there in the last 3 years, and they burn medical waste. And since then, you know, we've had so many people around this area from Meath and Drogheda, Louth, who have told us that, you know, they have either their cousins or nephews or nieces or whatever it might be, had leukemia and has leukemia just within the last sort of year or so. And I'm wondering, is there any correlation? Because I asked the doctor what sort of numbers of children get leukemia every year in Ireland, and he said, you know, in between 20 to 30 kids. And if that's the case, then this area seems to be well above the average.
Well,
you know?
definitely. Well, as Dr. Kelly said, we had Dr. Kelly on. He's an Irish dentist. Doctor, not dentist. Irish doctor. And he said, even if you're trying to live as healthy as you can, if you're living in an unhealthy environment, then that's not going to help. Now, I mean, you know, Barry Trower, people can download Barry's report, which is on the OYM website, and he did a report, and he said that Wi-Fi is the new thalidomide, but who cares? Now, that report is 14 pages. Anybody can understand the actual report. And he said that our next generation, which is our kids, Ben, 57% of our kids will be sterile, the females will be sterile because of the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So this...
But that's what somebody was saying to me, that, you know, to try and switch off all the electrics in the house during the night, just to see if things are better because of that.
Yeah.
And because he sent me some information on it.
Yeah. But we've seen that. We've had reports of children having headaches and suffering. I mean, myself and Steve have got rid of our microwave, we've got rid of our hands-free deck phones, and all our computers are hardwired.
Right.
You know, I mean, my background is IT, and myself and Steve are involved in communications as well. That's an interest of ours, a hobby, and we don't and of course we're dads as well, so we have an interest to make sure that everything's shut down, and you know, try and avoid. It's very hard to avoid it, but it's all about reduction, you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Now, somebody also said to us that sometimes leukemia can be caused by a shock, if the child got a shock. And we brought it to a guy that does kinetics. You know, I'm not well up on it. It seems a peculiar thing to me, but some people swear by it. And he was convinced that child had some sort of shock, you know. And then we brought her to a herbalist the other day. And it was just strange that she said the same thing. She said, I think your child had some sort of shock. And the only thing we could think of that, you know, because we live in a happy enough home, thank God, in a quiet home, and none of us drink or, you know, rage or anything in front of the children, or, you know, so we couldn't think of what shock she had. And then we thought back and said, it might have been the night the Gardai broke into my home and arrested me. Yeah. Because that was a fairly traumatic experience for them. So it could have been that. I'm not saying that, you know, because people are saying compensation setting in. It's not that issue at all. I mean, I already after them anyway, so. But it was just strange when they were saying that to us, because, you know, she's a young, very sensitive little girl, and it may be that either. It may be the incinerator, it may be the Wi-Fi in the house, it may be before we start filtering our water. We just don't know. Somebody else said there's stuff coming up through the ground because we live close to a river. And you hear so much. That's the stuff I'd like to tease out and see, is there any sort of genuine data and evidence behind it. Yeah, well, the Wi-Fi is definitely, we can definitely talk about that, and we spoke to Barry Trower in depth about this, and we had George Carlo on, and we had Jerry Flynn on, Canadian captain, ex-captain. So that's our area of expertise, if you want to say, because we've done enough research into it and spoke to enough experts to talk about the wireless stuff. But well, you see, it's that on the show now that I'd love to get, so we can put up slides and charts and whatever evidence they're relying on. But then I'd also like to get a guy who, you know, who promotes the Wi-Fi, who sells it, maybe the head of, you know, BT department or someone like that, who may or may not come on. Now, if they don't come on, of course, you'd be wondering why they don't come on. Well, exactly. Well, I totally agree. If you can do that, if you can arrange for somebody to come on, or even a government expert, say, you know, well, that's it, that'd be brilliant. I mean, the Minister of Communications, even if he sends someone, you know, because surely they're there to protect. The ordinary guy in the street doesn't understand Wi-Fi, how it works, or the dangers, or that it's safe. But he relies on the government. If these people are licensed to put in these things, I mean, the government is supposed to protect the people, and I mean, if that's the case, they should be able to stand by. If some experts are out there saying it's not safe, well, then by all means they should come out and say it's safe. Because I remember there was a program on RTE about this guy who was going around, and he was basically selling filters for water that take out fluorides and other toxins that he said was in the water. But he basically electrocuted the water, and it basically looked like a big just lump of shit in the bottom of the glass when he was finished. And he said, that's what's in your water that you're drinking. Now, I was shocked at this. This is going back a good few years. Yeah. And I got a filter off him. And the water now, when we put it in tea and everything, we could not go back to the tap water. And a friend of ours came to the house one day, and he made a cup of tea, and And I said to him, oh, God, that tea is rotten. Where'd you get the water? And he goes, I got it out of the tap, of course. And I said, you used the wrong tap. Like, you know, we could actually taste the difference. But before we got the filter, we couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
But then RTE did a program saying that, you know, be careful of these filters, that they were taking good nutrients out of the water. And I thought to myself, God, you know, call me a conspiracy theorist. But all of a sudden I'm looking at RTE who never mention anything about water. And all of a sudden they want us to keep gulping down this shit. And I thought to myself, what's their agenda?
Well, see, you know your RTE, I mean, I don't even waste my time with RTE. I mean, they've been cut out so many times with their charter saying that they're sitting on the fence and they're impartial. No, they're not impartial. Now, one of the things I was going to say to you, again, that's a subject that we can definitely, Walter Graham would be a brilliant guest to have on to talk about that, because he got the actual fluoride out of the water in Northern Ireland up there. And he'd be another chap to have on. But I was going to say, when you were talking about that scare about the police going into your house, why did they barge in, and why did they barge in? Can you talk about that?
They did, yeah. I mean, there was an arrest warrant for a civil matter against me, which is a very strange thing to have, you know, because people mightn't understand why an arrest warrant for a civil matter is a strange thing to have. Well, the first issue is that civil matters, Gardai cannot be involved.
Yeah.
And they did it under the pretense of criminal. Yeah. And when I was on the stand, I asked the judge that I wanted a jury, because he had already stated it wasn't civil. He'd already stated that. Okay. And obviously that's what everybody thought, because the Gardai were involved and they broke into my home. And then when I looked for a jury, all of a sudden it changed and the matter was entirely civil now. So I've impeached the judge because he has done an awful lot of things wrong in the court, and the beauty about it is I have the transcripts. So I've impeached him to both houses of the Oireachtas. So if anybody's having trouble with Smiling Jack Ryan, as we call him, but Sean Ryan is his name, or he sometimes goes by Judge Ryan or Justice Ryan, which is sort of like an oxymoron. But anyway, he's been impeached to both houses of the Oireachtas, and as such shouldn't be sitting on the bench. So if anybody is out there listening and they got an order to repossess something, because if you're in front of Ryan, that's the only way it goes. The bank never loses in front of Ryan. So he's impeached, and I have clear evidence of why he should have been impeached. He ignored court rules. He wasn't sure if it was civil or criminal. When it was going against him, he had to switch it back to civil. He allowed a receiver who had no standing in court to actually bring the case, and I kept saying to the judge, who has standing to bring the case? Because, you know, in that case, the receiver in January signed a contract as agent for the bank to sell Eugene's property. Now, if you think that was January, when we did the protest up there, it was in August, 9 months later. 9 months later, he misrepresented himself as a receiver and came into the court actually lying on the stand and said he's a receiver, when I knew he wasn't, because we got discovery of documents and we could clearly see he was an agent of the bank back in January. You can't be an agent of the bank and a receiver for someone at the same time. That's a conflict of interest. So, I mean, he misrepresented him, and it was very clear. And Ryan then just kept saying, oh, look, this is just a case about were you in contempt of an order or were you not? And I said, no, it's not. I said, who's bringing the case? So you bringing the case against me? Because I have the right to look at my accuser in the face. Yeah. So then, of course, the receiver, I asked him, was he a director of Savills, because that's what he put down on his affidavit. And then, of course, I proved Savills doesn't have any directors. So he misrepresented his position there.
That's
and it just went on and on. The superintendent, they made an absolute arse of him. I asked him for his notes, and he didn't keep notes. And, you know, he's supposed to keep notes, because if he kept notes, he would have protected me. Yeah. And then he said that he swore that I said, when I was allegedly served the court order, he swore that I stated I don't recognise court orders. That's what he said I said. Yeah. And then, of course, I played a video back of the incident, and I never said anything like that, you know. Yeah. So he was caught out in lying and everything, and I kept saying to the judge, put the case forward to the DPP for perjury. He just kept ignoring me. Oh, we'll deal with that at the end, Mr. Gilroy, we'll deal with that at the end, you know. Anything to try and save these gangsters. Yeah. And then the security man who said he served me, I asked him, did he understand the rules of court service? And of course he didn't. And when you check out the court rules, he didn't come close to what's known as a valid service within the court rules. And if he had done it by the court rules, I would have had no excuses. But of course he didn't. So, you know, I have him impeached for that. The whole thing was a farce anyway, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I have a case now against them.
But that's madness.
I'm suing the superintendent, the registrar. I'm suing the superintendent, the Garda commissioner, the head of EF Collins solicitors, and the security company.
How can you ever expect to get justice when there's criminals and people like that in the justice system?
Well, you see, this time I'm bringing it to court of record, so a judge will have to behave himself, or we can just step him down. And as I say, I've already impeached Ryan. So that's where we're going with this, and if they want to play the game, let's play it. But I'll run up, if I have to run up millions in court fees, take it all the way to Europe, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But you won't be getting a penny out of me.
Yeah. And what about the case that apparently the bank didn't want you to get involved in?
Yeah, well, that's a case where I'm doing what's called power of attorney. And I did it in trim first with my friend Johnny, as you know. I said to the judge that I was holding power of attorney for his wife. And I handed it up to court, and it was done in the right schedule, so it was all legal and above board, as they say. And the barrister stands up. Now, you must remember, we were against Bank of Scotland, and this was a barrister for Tangier. These are guys that bought the loans from Bank of Scotland. And this barrister complained that I had no right of audience. Now, notwithstanding everybody's equal in law, this guy wants to downgrade me while he's a fictional character.
Yeah.
So I said, well, first of all, I said, while I am holding power of attorney, I said, the barrister has no right of audience. I said, because they're Tanagers, we don't have a contract with them, and there's no standing in the court. I said, secondly, he's supposed to be appointed by a solicitor, and he isn't. And with that, a solicitor stood up. I'm the solicitor here, and I said, no, you didn't know anything about the case this morning. I said, and the barrister appointed you, and that's not the way it works. A solicitor or a barrister is supposed to be appointed by a solicitor. So then the judge said, look, I'll just get on with the case. So I just said, grand. I said, you know, who are these people? And he said, well, they're Tanagers. And I said, and how did they get into our private contractual arrangement without our consent? And he said, well, they went ex parte before the registrar. So I said, you're telling me a non-judicial officer, like a registrar, or even it wouldn't make any difference if it was a judge, has entered our private contractual arrangement and allowed these gangsters from America, a vulture fund, to enter into our private contractual arrangements without our consent? I said, the registrar has stepped out of our office and we'll sue her for that. And then the barrister stands up and he said, oh, they ticked the box in the mortgage some time ago. And I said, how would you know? You've no first-hand knowledge of that. Don't be giving evidence about something you don't know. I said, you're just coming into this contract only recently, so you cannot tell about what happened in any contract. But I said, Judge, he is correct. We did tick a box that the loan could be sold on. However, I said the banking regulations are very clear that we must be given full information of the transfer, and then they have to get our consent, irrespective of whatever previous consent was given. And then your man goes, oh, well, they're only guidelines from the bank, and we don't have to obey them. And I said, Judge, imagine this guy now on the first day trying to contract with us is telling a country, a court, an Irish court in a country that's been destroyed by banking malpractice, that he's now going to ignore banking guidelines when he wants to contract with us on the very first day.
Brilliant.
And then I said, what is his cause of action against us? I mean, what's his cause of action? Because they're a vulture fund.
Yeah.
And with that, the judge says to me, well, he said, I have sympathy there with you, Mr. Gilroy. And I said, well, it's not just sympathy I'm looking for. I said, Judge, it's your understanding. I said, let me break this down in very simple language for you, Judge. These guys go to market and they want to buy a duck, right? But they're only after lame ducks, right? And what they do is they go along to the market and they see ducks are €10, but lame ducks are €2. So they buy a duck knowing it's lame. And I said, because if they didn't know it was lame, in other words, this loan was in court because it hasn't been paid in a number of years.
Yeah.
If they didn't know it was lame, then they didn't get full disclosure and there is no contract. But let's assume they got full disclosure. They know it's lame. So they bought it for €2. Now the minute they have the duck, they come to the Irish court and they say, hey, we bought a lame duck and I want me €10 back. I said, they didn't pay €10, they only paid €2. So I said, the most he's ever paid for them loans, I said, is 30 grand because the mortgage was 300 and they only paid 10%. So I said, is he trying to bring unjust enrichment before the court looking for 300, only out of pocket for 30? And with that, you could hear a pin drop in the cord, and they couldn't shut me up quick enough then.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a minefield. It really is a minefield.
Yeah.
So
then we were down in Cork, and the barristers down there now are complaining about me having power of attorney. So that's been kicked out now till October. But as I told the judge, I said to him, I believe somebody may be causing me an offence, because I said Section 9 of the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act clearly states it's an offence if you compel someone to do something or not to do something they're perfectly legally entitled to do. And I said, I've already shown you my legal entitlement, Section 16 of the Powers of Attorney Act. So they get bamboozled when somebody knows the law and is actually willing to put it up to them. I think that's what the real problem is.
Yeah, how can we duplicate you? We need another 200 of you around Ireland.
Oh, jeez, don't say that. I'll have nightmares. Never mind about you people.
Well, see, this is the trouble
that's
with...
the last thing you'd want. You're better off getting screwed by the system.
No, I think we need people to be educated.
Yeah.
Because myself...
Well, you know, we often say to people, you know, when we're in court, just pop along, and we try not to have huge crowds in the court because you make them all nervous. But if one or two people want to pop along the next time and say me something, Johnny, you're in court, it'll be interesting. But I can't see that case going very far for them now because the judge asked me what is it I wanted because he just couldn't get me out of court quick enough. And I said, well, I'm entitled to all documents of title. And he said, okay. And then the barrister stands up, they seen the mortgage. And I said, again, you have no first-hand knowledge. Don't be giving evidence of what you know nothing about. I said, you're right, Your Honour, I did see the mortgage document. He's quite correct about that. But I said, the law allows me to seek all documents of title. I said, the mortgage document is not all documents of title. So he said, what is it you're looking for then? I said, I'm entitled to all documents of title to make sure there's no broken chain of title. So I want to see all the documents of title that moved it from Bank of Scotland Ireland to Bank of Scotland UK. And then if it went into a special purpose vehicle, I want to see all them master contract agreements. And then if it came out of the special purpose vehicle on some credit default swap back to Numbnuts over here, and I want to see the contract for sale to Numbnuts and whatever he paid for it. And then I said, then and only then we may contract with him. So the judge says, okay, you 4 weeks to get that to Mr. Gilroy, the barrister's gone berserk.
And what is the situation now with people taking on the banks regarding securitisation?
Well, in the High Court, I mean, McGovern, the guy that actually signed the arrest warrant for me, whom I won a case there only 2 weeks ago in front of him because he'd no way, it wasn't that he's too honest, he just had nowhere to go with it. So we won the case for my brother-in-law. But he actually stated that you can't raise securitisation as a defence anymore. Now this guy's a complete idiot. I mean, imagine saying, he said because of the Miriam Freeman case. So now if you look at it this way, right, what he's saying to you is that a housewife who was against a very senior legal team raised that issue, right? And although she may have fought it badly or greatly, whatever, then somehow I can't raise it as a defence as well. Notwithstanding there's about 2,000 different types of securitisation and transfers that can be done.
Yeah. Well,
so look, all I say is when they use any of that sort of case law against you, you know, my old friend Vin came up with this one, you know, Vin from TNS.
Yeah.
And he said anytime they're saying things, like I was in court from my brother's house there recently, and it's going on now in October, and they brought up some case, and Vin just said, was that about my brother's house? And they say, no, just, oh, then it's nothing to do with me.
Which is
so that's funny, like, you know, it's a funny way to take care of it.
Yeah, that's very good, very good. And because obviously this is something that myself and a friend of mine are looking into, setting up a drop-in centre where people can come along and talk about it, and I'm getting my head around. She has more experience than I do, she's been down that road with the banks and stuff like that, and she's asked me to be involved, and I said, for what I know, I don't mind, but you know, but we're going to be looking at kind of getting the hub involved as well. And more like kind of drop-in outreach centre for people who can't get into Dublin to come along, and we'd use the hub as kind of a backup. So if we don't know the answer, then we can contact the people in the hub. That's the kind of general idea. And if we had more of these centres around the country, and it's not a case of, you know, being an expert in the law. It's just, you know, knowing the fundamentals of what's going on and the corruption, and then. But
the only way you will win in court, though, is to know the actual law.
Oh yeah, well definitely. You
need to know the law on securitisation to beat them, and you need to know what rights you have under the Acts to see what documents.
Yeah.
And people are going in looking at, asking the bank to see original documents. And they're going in and they're not even sure what documents they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then when they're shown an original of a document, all of a sudden their world falls apart.
Yeah.
And just let me make this very clear for people out there. Because a bank shows you an original mortgage deed has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on whether the loan was sold or not. And remember that. Okay? And also, you will often see in affidavits from a manager in the collections department saying the loan wasn't securitized. Now, he has no idea whether it was or not. He works in in a credit recoveries department. That's totally different to a securities department where they're selling securities. So one is on the debit side of the bank and the other could be in a different department, in a different bank, maybe even in a different country, in the securities department. So the two of them are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we had a case that we're doing quite well in with a friend of mine from Donegal. He's back in his pubs where the receivers moved in a good while ago. He's back in the pubs and I think he'll be keeping them. The bank's now talking about doing the deal with him. But they put on affidavit that the loan wasn't securitized, right?
Yeah.
And when we questioned your man, he then came out and said, well, he said he's asked his colleagues and they've assured him it's not.
That's hearsay.
That's like asking me, is my brother a lawyer?
Yeah, exactly. It's hearsay. Yeah.
So the judge was quick enough, in fairness, and he was fair enough. There are a few fair judges around, not many of them. They're like hen's teeth, but this guy was fair. I know him, and he basically even said, look, he said, I hope he's not trying to mislead the court, but he said he asked his colleagues. I'm assuming these are colleagues then who know the answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're working in the credit department, just think about it. Let's say you're working in Mespil Street or Mespil Road there in Dublin, in one of the banks, and you're working in a recoveries department. As I say, a securities department might be in Holland for AIB. It may be anywhere. It could be in Cork. It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, when he said he asked his colleagues, does he mean they were all standing around the water cooler one day and he goes, well, do you think Johnny Squire's loan was securitized? No, I don't think so. All right, fair enough. Like, what does that actually mean? So you'd often see managers writing back out here, to the best of my knowledge, it has not been securitized.
But that's
again,
that's hearsay. Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant.
What's the situation with the criminal side of things, i.e. the likes of, I mean, I know this is going to bring it down a little bit, but the likes of speeding fines and, tickets and all that kind of stuff. What's your experience dealing with all of them?
No, I normally just don't pay them.
Right, that's...
I got arrested there before Christmas last year, where I was just heading into town. I was trying to help a friend who was in the High Court, and there's two lanes going to one as you go down to the halfway house there. And I stayed in the outer lane, and there's arrows telling you to get in on the road, but, there was a clear way all the way down. I wasn't injuring anybody, and with that, a young guard, I don't know where he jumped out of. He must have been hiding in a bush or something, but he jumped out and he seemed all upset, you think I was after raping someone, and he's screaming at me, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy looks like he's about to breach my peace. Yeah. So anyway, I started videoing him on my phone. Now, I didn't put it up on YouTube. He's actually very funny though, So he pulled me in and he said, hey, you drove across hash martins, he was calling them, right? And I just said to him, so what? And with that, his head nearly exploded. I think he was expecting the usual meek Irish person, oh, please sir, 3 bags full, sir, and So I just said, so what? And he said, you drove across hash markings again. And I said, all right, well, is it civil or criminal? And he said, it's criminal. I said, criminal? I said, have you a complaint? And I said, is there an injured party? I said, are you telling me the line is injured and it reported that to you? And then I said to him, you got to be honest. I said, if you don't want someone driving across that line, the road's a stupid place to put it. You should have put it up on the wall. And with that, he went fucking berserk. And he goes around the front of the car. He says, and you have no tax. And I said, so what? And with that, then it was like he was listening to a guy speaking Chinese or something. It just wasn't the language he was used to. And I said, so what if I no tax? I said, I'm only picking my kids up from school. I said, what difference does it make? I don't need to pay tax, surely, to pick my kids up from school. So then he says, what's your name? I said, Ben. And he said, Ben what? I said, no, it's just Ben. So he said, give me your name or I'll arrest you. And I said, do you want to know the clan I'm from? And he goes, your family name? Yeah, I said, I'm from the ancient clan of Gilroy. I said, so with that he arrested me, put handcuffs on me for not giving me name, and he apparently brought me up to the Blanchardstown Gardai station. It was 4 days before Christmas the year before last. And then when I was in the station, he broke every light on the way there, but I walked in, and I'm always real pleasant, so I just go up to the desk. Good morning, Sergeant, how are you? And I think he thought I was a detective, because I knew he didn't know the other two cops either, because he had to ask them what station they're from.
Yeah.
And I walked in, I said, good morning, Sergeant. I was kind of well dressed, because I was on my way to court anyway.
Yeah.
And he said, good morning, and then he noticed the handcuffs on me. He goes, why were you arrested? I said, I've no idea. I said, Numnuts here arrested me, and he said I didn't give him my name, but that's not true. And he said, the young guard says, he didn't give us his name. And I said, well, first of all, I said, I asked you for any lawful obligation that I was to do anything with you, and you couldn't tell me, right? And I said, I'd do it if you could give me any lawful obligation that I was to do anything with you. I said, secondly, Sergeant, I said, I told him my name. I said, I'm Ben of the ancient clan of Gilroy. My father left me a seal that I seal all legal documents, and it's seals of the ancient clan of Gilroy with a seal on it. And I said, and I'm Ben. I don't know what more I can do for the guy. So the sergeant says to me, well, it's a funny name, he says. And I said, well, at least now when I know why I'm arrested, because I have a funny name. And the sergeant said, oh, well, I didn't arrest you. And I said, no, Numnuts here did. And I said, and furthermore, I said, he's breached my peace. He hasn't cautioned me properly. I said, I'm the head of a family unit, and as you know, the family unit is the highest protected in our society, which he's sworn to uphold. And I said, not only that, he said, he's left my kids now somewhere, and for all he knows, I said, they could be getting fucked in the Phoenix Park. And I said, furthermore, I said, I'm now falsely arrested, falsely imprisoned, shackled, and I said, he's also endangered my life on the way here in a squad car by using emergency lighting and sirens. And I said, clearly there's no emergency. And I said, Sergeant, are you telling me you can't find criminals in Blanchardstown on Christmas week, that you have to bother with someone minding their own fucking business? And the sergeant goes, can you just step into a cell for a minute while I talk to these two? I think he was going to read them out, but... So he says to me, just as I'm walking towards the cell, he said, oh, I have you anything on you shouldn't have? And I said, yeah, these, and I shook the bracelets, you know.
Yeah.
So he took them off me and he put me in a cell. And I knew outside they were going to do a thing called joinder, you know, they have to get me to be their legal fiction bullshit.
Yeah.
So anyway, they come into the thing and he says, what's the name on your birth cert? And I went, birth cert. Let me think. I think I was about a week old when I got that. I said, no, I can't remember, I said. And I said, but my mother used to call me a name. Would you like that? And he said, yes. And I said, no, you wouldn't be able to use that in court, though, because it's hearsay. So should that have been no good to you anyway? So then he says to me, have you a legal name? And I said, yeah. And I took out a passport and I gave it to him. And he said, Ben Gilroy, that's you. Now, I wouldn't suggest anybody, offers a passport. It's just if you know how to play the game, it can be funny.
Yeah.
So he points at the passport and he said, Ben Gilroy, that's you. I said, that's not me. And even the sergeant looked over and he said, that's you. And they're both pointing at the passport. And I'm looking at him going, I said, see how brainwashed you are. You think that's me. I said, and I'm over here, and I started slapping my face. I said, I'm over here, and that's in your hand, and you think that's me. Well, sure, if you think that's me, I said, you arrest that and let me go. And they eventually just said, get out. So you can have a bit of fun like that if you want, but just be careful on who you're agreeing to be or what you're signing, so you don't give subject matter jurisdiction to these guys.
Oh, I call them, when you have the speed cameras out with their speed guns, crouching tiger, hidden guard,
Yeah. But they're just revenue commissioners at that stage, aren't they?
Exactly.
Well, the country is so knackered now that they're not even into crime. They're just into where they can get money. So you'll see them out with all these new things now, your NCT's not doing it, your tax is out, or your broke a light or whatever bullshit they can come up with, you're on a phone. I mean, they're going to tell you now you're on a phone, that's criminal. I mean
well, you have the Tonka toys,
But if you think about it logically, what they're basically saying is, Enda Kenny and Radcar and whatever other few gobshites are up there sat in a room and decided that if I use a phone, that's criminal and I can go to jail. I mean, how does that even make sense to anybody,
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the whole system, not one banker has gone to jail who screwed the country yet. People are going to jail because they didn't pay their TV license.
Yeah.
I mean,
didn't have a dog license.
That alone has to say to people, that's how bad the system is. We're getting a totalitarian system. I mean, I read out there earlier on, Ben, there's a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, who was sexually assaulted in Navan. She actually doesn't live too far from where you live. And
do it if that's what you're trying to
no, definitely not. And no, it's definitely not you. You're okay. And apparently they said that they won't be dealing with any sexual assaulted cases until November 2015. And my reasoning is because there's no money in it. You know, if they could get money out of it.
It's laughable, isn't it? Now, just to let you know, and you probably know this already anyway, I haven't paid e-flows or TV licenses or water charges or LPTs or any of that for an awful long time, nor do I intend to. And I must have about 10 clamps here that I took off different property belonging to me that somebody thought they had a right to put on. And nobody's ever come after me. So I think once you play the game right and you can do it right, you know, you should have no fear. But I always say to people, start with something small. Start with a little parking ticket or something. You know, the chance of you going to jail, even if you get that right for the parking ticket, is slim. And let's say you make a complete idiot of it and you have to pay a €100 fine or whatever it is. Well, sure, so be it. You paid your €100 for a good education in court and the judge got the better of you that day, but you know, you learn from your mistakes.
I totally agree. I think it's a case people are going to have to stand up and do it, because the whole system is corrupt, and as long as we keep feeding the beast, they'll keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and not only that, if you don't do it, what will be left? I mean, you look at now, I mean, most people believe you actually have to pay tax on your home. Your home's inviolable under the Constitution. That means inviolable. Nobody can touch it, nobody can enter it, nobody can go near it. And they want to tax it on you.
Oh, no, listen, I totally agree with this. I lived in the UK and you brought out the council tax. And what people don't realise is that this is like the water rates. It's going to go up and up and up and up. And you know, and it's just kind of ask you, what can you do? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. If you don't pay it and you don't learn the law and you don't stand up for yourself, well then you're going to be stressed and you're going to be worrying and everything else. So there's a time that you have to come. Myself and Steve, we have done our own protests in certain things.
And protesting, I kind of hate.
No. When I say protest, I mean we are not paying certain things. That's what I mean. Yeah.
That's it. End of story.
Yeah.
Well, look, if the country was being ran right and we were all terrific and, you know, there was good people, why may contribute to that system?
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Well,
listen.
Right now I don't.
Yeah.
And furthermore, they're landing American planes in here for God knows what. That's why I admire Claire Daly and
Mick Wallace.
Mick Wallace when he was trying to see what's in the plane. Furthermore, if our elected representatives cannot inspect a military plane on a peaceful country who are neutral, then who can?
Well,
I mean, this is what drives me insane. We elected them to look after us, did we not? To make sure we're not doing stuff we shouldn't be doing. And when military planes run from another country, like let's say if it wasn't America, because we're all so far up America's arse now, it drives me insane. But we actually think their Independence Day is ours, or at least most people would know their Independence Day before they could tell us the date of ours, and that's the truth. Yeah. I mean, but let's say it was a plane from Turkey, a military plane landed here, and Mick Wallace and thing went out to see it. There'd be no hurrah about it. You know, the press would be saying, "Oh, fair play," and why is a military plane here landing from Turkey? But because we're so far up America's arse, because obviously America has money, we're always like this little cheap Irish peasant on the corner of Europe, you know, hoping for an old hand down from America. Drives me insane. Well, America's more broke than we are.
That's what I'm saying. I tell you, they won't have money. I think we'll be going. I think we're going to be leaning to the east shortly, like France and Germany, because that's where they're going. With the BRICS countries setting up the development bank and everything else, everybody's kind of moving away from America and the dollar and the petrodollar. Because I mean, again, Claire Daly did say in the Dáil about being sycophantic approach with Obama coming over here and Enda Kenny, you know, kissing his arse. Now, if people remember the photo of Nicolas Sarkozy and Enda Kenny, and Nicolas Sarkozy being smaller than him and tapped him on his head like a little puppy dog, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, in the corporate world, if you've seen that, I mean, that says volumes of what these people think of Ireland. And Enda
but not
Kenny.
only that, like, the point I'm then making is, if you pay into the LPT and all that, like, you know, they're supporting military planes. Now, irrespective of what's on them, let's say they're only carrying sandwiches out to soldiers or whatever it is, that's aiding and abetting. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's aiding and abetting. And they are crimes against humanity. When you see children, of course, the Jews own America, and that's what the problem is. But when you see Irish planes, and I said the Irish people will start waking up when the Hamas maybe start letting off a few bombs in Dublin because they heard they're supporting the American planes, like, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what it might take. But are you in good conscience going to even pay ordinary tax into a system that supports that military going on? I mean, America told us the last time they went into Iraq that this guy had weapons of mass destruction. Now they should have been brought before some tribunal in The Hague for war crimes because they entered the country in false pretenses. The guy had no more than 2 water pistols. And all of a sudden, you know, the whole country destroyed. God knows how many thousands of children blown apart. And now they're at it again.
Yeah.
You know, when will we stop these tyrants? And they're the real tyrants of the world. I mean, America, the land of the free and everything. You look at the amount of wars that America has been involved in the last 100 years. I don't think they've ever been out of war.
Well, see, war makes money, Ben. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I put up on my Facebook, that Obama was the head of the corporation. I don't know if you've seen that young student in Florida that asked him the question about the Israeli and supporting Israel in the war and how much it was costing, and because he fobbed the question, but he was sorry he asked her, and if anybody didn't see it, go onto my Facebook, and there'll be a couple of posts down and you'll find it.
What do you think about this thing? We mentioned it, actually, before we get to that, the other thing I was going to say, we have a couple of questions in, but Steve can actually touch base on this, but the one thing that was said, we said last week on the show, was that the Irish government apparently are realising that people are going, sure, lock me up, go on. So they're saying now it's actually realising that it's costing them money. And European rights have said that the whole kind of system that Ireland is running is way behind and antiquated. So what they're doing now is looking at revenue as such, to look at your savings and your social and your everything else, because it's actually costing them more money to lock you up than trying to get the money off you. And they want money. That's what they want.
They're so broke that their corporate friends in Europe, their businesses are failing and they need to rob money on the Irish.
Yeah.
So then now they want to know what pensions you have, what bonds you have. You know, if you bought a couple of post office stamps, they want to know about it. You know, if you have gold teeth, Shatter wanted to pull them out at one stage.
Yeah, well, that's what we call them.
They want to know what your wife's jewellery, you know.
We put up
jewellery, you know.
We put up a graphic. We call them bling bling Shatter, you know. Because he wanted your wedding ring, you know.
Yeah,
Steve,
that's right. Yeah.
Steve mentioned an article there. Steve, if you read it out, and then you can do the questions with Ben about the child, the barrister being caught for the kiddie porn.
Oh yeah, that's something that I heard, Ben, before I come up this evening. I just seen it actually on Facebook. I was saying the top barrister in child sex abuse claims was arrested. That was on the Independent. I mean, yeah, it's kind of. Have you heard about that?
I was just in the supermarket the other day and I put something up on my Facebook. I've seen 2 newspapers in front of me. One talked about a judge who was arrested and she was put into jail and she was just being released early. So that was on one page. I'm just standing to buy milk or something in the shop. And then the next page was barrister arrested on child molestation charges or something like that. And I just thought it was funny, and I thought, here's the very honourable legal system now falling apart a bit like the church. And I said, like, you know, that there's a great comparison between church and the legal system. You know, and I often talk about that, you know, when you go into church, the pews and the all rise when the priest walks out, and they've all the black garb on them, and they pray to the court, and we're known as lay litigants because lay people are on the outside of the church, and you go on and on and on and on, and it's my Lord and your worship and all this sort of nonsense, you know. So there's a huge similarity. I mean, you know. So
yeah. We have a couple of questions for you.
One was poison. I'm sure there was poison in the other.
Well, definitely. Well, I'm just hoping that what's happening in the UK, because they actually arrested 660 people for the paedophile stuff over in the UK, and I'm hoping this is going to open the floodgates over here, because we know what's going on over here, but nobody's saying anything. Everybody's being tight-lipped.
Yeah, and that's the Irish way of doing business. I mean, so look how long the church was involved in paedophile rings with children, and when people knew about it, and it went on for 50 years too long.
Well,
and it'll be the same with, you know, screwing people from the banks and the legal system again.
Yeah.
Unless, like to me, another stand up and highlight what we see is going on.
Yeah.
And, like, we've no vested interest. We're just trying to protect the people, and that's it.
Exactly. I totally agree. Let's go up to the questions there, Steve.
Sure.
Yeah, Vin, we've 3 questions here for you. The first one is, can you ask Ben what he thinks about Agenda 21? Do you know what about that?
I've seen some of the Agenda 21 stuff. Again, it's frightening. Anybody who'll talk about it, but this Agenda 21 is going on an awful long time, and I've seen this from way, way back. If you take it even just on a simple thing where they're telling schools what to teach and what not to teach, and it's a plan of all round. Now, I'm not well up on all of the Agenda 21 because I know it talks about food production and how it's to be done and what's to be made illegal, but you can see a total agenda of a corporation trading for profit and then harming people, and just, it's going to be horrific. But I'm not sure if we have the right people in government to actually stand up against that, because really, could you name 5 good people in government? You'd be struggling.
I'll give you 3.
Something.
Give you 3.
Apart from the usual few good souls that are there that we talked about earlier on the runway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's 3 that I know of. That's about it. And we had Claire on the show before, and she was great. But
that's over 160.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, look, you know.
And even about the Agenda 21, if anyone thinks it's all kind of conspiracy stuff, it's not.
I know they say that, and that's what drives me insane. Yeah. Read up on it. I met a guy and he was in teaching, and he was from Donegal, and he was the first guy who opened my mind to some of that. Well, Ben, he was a teacher because he could see it from the education starting.
Yeah. Well, Ben, let me just say this. If you go to the County Meath website, go on the internet, go to County Meath. It's on County Meath. They have Agenda 21 there. They're talking about it. Because I checked it out myself.
They must be all conspiracy theories down there, mate.
Yeah.
Steve. Ben, Jerry's wondering, have the guards ever tried to get you for a psychiatric evaluation or queried your state of mind?
No, them guys were looking at a piece of paper and thought it was me.
They're the ones they need testing.
Because that's what I said to them. I said, you're so brainwashed, you're looking at a piece of paper and you think that's me. You know, if you do it with some humour, because like once you start going a bit mad at them and sort of crazy, you know, because you know you're right and it's so frustrating, then you can't look crazy to them because they are genuinely brainwashed by the system.
Yeah, they are now,
so
totally.
If you do it with a bit of humour and just say, you guys really think that piece of paper is me? And who do you think this is over here talking to you then? You know, just doing that sort of way, and humour really does disarm a lot of stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, if they have a sense of humour. Yeah.
And but they need aggression though.
Oh, they do.
They can only do their job with aggression.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't give them back aggression, then they're unsure how to handle it. And if you give them humour, oh my God, they're ruined altogether. They don't know what to do then.
See, that's what we always say. The trouble only starts when the Gardai turn up.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, Steve, you got more questions?
Okay, final one from Vin. This is for your good buddy Vin from People's Internet Radio. He's wondering, did you hear the audio piece that he done on the LPT, the property tax?
I did.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I had a feeling he might be behind that.
Yeah, well,
I said to Vin there on the chat box, and one of the chat boxes there, he's about as subtle as a slap in the face, that fella. No, that was very good. And anybody wants to go to it, I'm sure it's on Vin's site, the TNS radio or MSI radio. It's a very good thing. Basically, an employer who's registered with the government and has employees registered with the government had an employee who said, I have a contract with you, and I do not want you taking any money from me that I don't consent to. And if you do, I'll sue your ass.
Yeah.
So then he rings up the revenue commissioners, and the whole conversation is actually funny, you know. We've the right to do it, right? Well, give me something in a letter that protects me. No.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
It was just hilarious. I mean, but think about it logically. If I have a contract with you, and you're to pay me $500 a week after you pay whatever else, with like contributions or taxes, or because I knew the taxes were there before I started the job, so you could say, right, fair enough.
Yeah.
But then you want to come in and you want to do an LPT. Well, what next week if it's an STT and an FBO and the DHD and all these fucking things they make up?
Yeah.
And then I actually owe you money for coming to work.
Yeah.
So look at, when I started the job, I knew there was PRSI, I knew there was income tax or POE, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. But now I'm working for you, and that's our contract. Now you want to talk about LPT or whatever other bullshit they're going to make up. I just said to you, sorry, me and you have a contract. You give me my money, I did me work, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. No inland revenue. Look, we know that the tax. I mean, my father said to me that in the 50s they had to, when he had to take care of his own tax because he didn't have PRSI. You know, of course, and that was all voluntary from, I believe, after the kind of 1916 and all the troubles at the time. The whole idea was to pay the tax to get the country back on, but it was only supposed to be voluntary.
All voluntary.
Yeah.
But sure, even, I think Vin has it up on the website, the head of the Revenue Commissioner is Josephine Feely, I think her name is, clearly makes a statement to say all taxes are voluntary.
Well, that's what we...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, if all taxes are voluntary...
But be careful about voluntary, you know. That means with consent.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
most people don't know what consent is.
Yeah.
I mean, most people think it's, oh yes, I do. You know, that's not always consent. Consent is silence, the wrong nod, the wrong wink. You signed something wrong. You said who you were. You know, they're just gangsters you're dealing with. You know, like he's saying to you, back in the 30s and that, there was Al Capone, and he ran big businesses all over America and all over Sicily and, I mean, all over the world. So where are all these gangsters gone? Do you think the police were so good they got rid of them? No, they just entered into businesses that where really the power was and where you could make money. So they're all in the court system, the banking system, and the insurance companies. And that's where they've all gone.
And the trouble is, the Gardai are the henchmen who don't even know they're henchmen for these people.
The Gardai, like, in fairness to them, most guards I meet are nice blokes and they don't even want to deal with me, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
And some of them even that I've done videos with, you know, are decent blokes. They'd often come up to ask me and they say, "Jeez, Ben, you put me on YouTube there, you bollocks." And I'd say, "Actually, look, I made you look good." And they say, "Right, in fairness, you did." Because if a cop comes up to me and he's using bad language or whatever, I'd normally cut that out.
Yeah.
I'm not there to make an idiot of him. It's just the system. And I keep saying, just because they're trained a certain way, they're not actually bad guys. They're just guys who are caught up and being trained wrong. Now, there are a few bad apples, but there's bad apples in everything, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the sort of things we try to do, we meet the odd bad apple as well. So they're everywhere. We can't take the high moral ground on some just gobshites.
Yeah,
you know.
no. And
But
also...
in general, most cops I meet are decent, ordinary guys. Even the guys I was talking about in the station, they never went any further with that.
Yeah.
I guess because they didn't want that sort of messing in court. But also, like, you know, it was kind of more laughing a joke and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Well, no, I have spoke to Gardai about this, and they it is a case that they are conditioned in the system. That's just the way they've been programmed. Whether it's NLP down in Templemore, I don't know, but they see things in a certain way because the training. Now, I remember years ago seeing a kind of hidden camera. I don't know how true this is, but it was like a hidden camera in Templemore, and it was like a recruit shooting, and there was a red-headed sergeant there, and the first thing he said the people are poo on your shoe. And he said, everybody's a criminal type of thing. Everybody's guilty of something. And I thought, well, that's a great way to start things off, you know. And it's very clicky. And, of course...
Well, I think they get brainwashed because I knew fellas that went down there and they were just ordinary blokes when they went down. And when they came back, they always seen a car as a mechanically propelled vehicle then. Whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is the trouble.
I'd say, that's a nice car. They'd say, that's a nice mechanically propelled vehicle.
And he had the accent put on as well, No, that's the thing. If the barristers and the solicitors realise people are beginning to learn the law and fight back, they'll be made redundant. So they don't want people to know the law.
Well, you see, in the case that we won, the judge actually said that lay litigants now are actually getting so good at the law that they're actually showing it up to the barristers. And then when we went in for the costs, you know, there was a hearing for costs, and I was able to show a letter that we sent to the legal team and the bank over a year ago saying they hadn't a snowball's chance in hell of winning this case because of certain sections of the law pointed out. The judge says it's not up to lay litigants to teach the legal people the law, and for that reason he awarded us costs.
Wow, okay.
You know?
Yeah. Steve, you have another question there?
Yeah, question, Ben, from Snowy. She's just wondering about the revenue and withholding tax back because she won't fill out the LPT. Now, this is something that I have personal experience about. My own father. He was told that he's owed tax back, but they're not going to give it to him because he's refusing to fill out the form as well. Any thoughts?
Well, you see, I really suppose that the only way you can really go after him is sue them. Sue them. Eventually, because everybody has this big myth about the Revenue Commissioner, it's this big machine after you. But actually, when you get into court, it's just you against one man. There's always got to be one guy representing that corporation. And that's what I always try to do, just go after them in the High Court, run up a huge big bill for them. You know?
So what about your bill? Does it cost you, though?
Yeah, but you see, it's not costing me anything because all I'm doing is in court of record. So my costs are just whatever I do for the filing papers. There's no agreement, and I make it very clear that in my papers that I won't be paying costs.
Yeah. That
I just want to decide who's right and who's wrong here, and if I'm right, I want to sue them for damages. But if I've accused them of being wrong, there is no damages really to them if I apologise. Right. There's no real loss to them. you know.
See, this is what we need to find out, because the more people know about this and what the cost is, I think you will get more people suing, you know, everybody and anybody. I mean,
Look, most people have no money anyway, so what does it matter?
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're about to lose your home. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes me laugh when people just hand the house back and they say, oh no, I was afraid of the court costs, so now I'm homeless. Like, I mean, that's a crazy situation. You think about if a guy's coming after you for your house, you should appeal that to the Supreme Court if you lose, drag the case out, make it as expensive as you can, even if you want to go all the way to Europe with it, do it.
Yeah,
because
well,
at the end of the day, let's say you're left with 2 million costs, so what? You're living on a common bridge. What difference does it make?
yeah. And of course they have to try and get the money out of you. You can't get blood over a stone, I suppose.
Well, they're just going to get rowdy and you sitting on a common bridge.
Yeah.
If they're going to take you to court for it, at least you'll have some warmth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 3 meals a day. The other thing was, obviously, White Rabbit said, we had Simon on from White Rabbit, and Simon's very good. And he said,
a friend of mine, I like him.
he said that if you go and go to the bank and ask for the question, say, well, I want to know X, Y, and Z, and they don't give it to you, he said, go to the Ombudsman, the financial regulator, and go, this bank is not doing what we're asking them to do. And he said, drag it out even more. It'll take even longer.
Of course. But not only that, is it not a breach of contract if you don't have full disclosure?
Yeah, exactly. Well, did anybody ever get full disclosure when they signed the agreement?
Well, that's the point, and that's why the first thing that I always do, especially if you're going to be starting in court against banks, the bank always has to put in an affidavit.
Okay.
Watch them run for the hills, and you write to them and ask the deponent to come in to be cross-examined.
Yeah.
And then you ask your questions and you get them answered. Because the minute he says, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or whatever, he just say to the judge, strike it out, he's not a competent witness.
Yeah.
You have to have a competent witness in a case.
Right, okay.
Doesn't matter if it's civil or criminal, somebody has to be competent.
Right, okay. So, I mean, and obviously with the likes of the fines and the e-flow and all that kind of stuff, and you've done the return to sender, I mean, have you had anything, have you had any guards turn up with summonses and stuff like that?
No, I had one time a guard knocked at the door. I showed Vin from MSI there, a video. I told him not to put it up on the internet, but it was just a funny one. A cop knocked on the door, and I assumed he had a summons or something for me. And I have an intercom. I have a hidden camera in the intercom, so I'm watching him, and I videoed it on the phone. And basically, he said, is Ben Gilroy there? And of course, I never answered to that. I just said, who's calling? And he said, it's the guards. And I said, are you here in commerce? And he said, how do you mean commerce? And I said, are you here on business? And he goes, business, yes. I said, well, I'm sorry about that. This is private property. No business allowed here. I said, so if you don't mind heading back out. And I said, read the notice behind you. So he turns around and he reads the notice where it's a private property, but if you want to do business here, I'll do business. I'll agree to do business with you, but you got to stick €700 through the letterbox. So he turns around and he says, but I'm already on your property. And I said, that's okay. I said, it's not a no trespass notice. I said, it just says if you want to do business here, it's €700, and by pushing the doorbell, which you have done, I said, basically, is your acceptance of that agreement. Well, he said, I haven't got €700. And I said, what are you doing business for with no money? So then he started getting annoyed. He said, if you don't come out and talk to me about a car that was on a road, well, a mechanically propelled vehicle that was on a road and such and such. I said, sorry, guard, can I stop you there? And he goes, yeah. I said, that sounds like business. I said, no business unless money comes through the door. And he said, if you don't come out and talk to me, I'll take a different action, he says. And I said, well, you can take the action of commerce and put €700 through the door. And with that, he says, are you Ben Gilroy? I said, all will be revealed when €700 comes through the door. And he just turns around and says, good night. And I said, good night.
And it's not a case, as you say, to make the guard look stupid. It's just pointing out the bloody obvious.
At the door. I mean, this is private family life here.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And the inviolability of the home that he swore to protect, and then he's banging on the door at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Wanting to do business.
No, that's ridiculous. Maybe he went to the wrong place. Maybe he should have went to where Cynthia Payne was doing some work.
They do business at 10 o'clock, I think.
There's various private houses that do business, and it's not shopping either, you know? I mean, maybe he went, maybe he went to the wrong place, you know? So what's happening? I mean, you have a big couple of cases on at the moment. I mean, can you talk about them or mention them?
No, not at the minute. I tell you, I'm just preparing for 2 in the morning in the High Court. But,
right.
Eventually, we will win them eventually, but we may lose the motion tomorrow. There's a motion to basically stop interfering with with a receiver, and then there's another motion to stand the receiver down.
Right. Okay.
So we'll see how they go.
Tell us about the whole direct democracy thing, and we never really touched base on that after the voting. And I mean, I know you got an awful lot of support from a load of people were saying, where's the direct democracy? Where do we vote? Who do we vote for, and all that? So how did it go?
Well, of course, if we like that main media ignore us, unless you're actually on just one of those human badger baiting shows like Vincent Brown or the Prime Time, where they actually separate the bad badgers to protect them, and then left the good badgers on their own, and the good badgers didn't want to attack each other.
Yeah.
So they just turn out to be pathetic, and people kind of give out to me, then say, Ben, you're too aggressive and you're shouting and blah blah blah. But if you don't get involved in it, you may as well go home. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and because the main media ignore you unless you come on the badger baiting show to make you look bad, you're always caught between. So sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Direct democracy obviously couldn't do well in the European election because it doesn't actually work at a European level.
Yeah.
You know, direct democracy, by the very nature of being direct democracy, doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it can only work at a national level if we all agree, or at least if most of us agree, that that's what our forefathers left us in the constitutions.
Yeah.
And we should be invoking that. Otherwise, you're back to this, what can we do? And the corporate companies just keep running the country for profit, and for their profit, not for profit sharing now.
Yeah. But that's
for their profit.
But that's
until we bring in direct democracy, I'm afraid it's protesting and fighting them in the courts, and maybe winning small battles but losing the war.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, this is the whole idea with the direct democracy process, regardless of whatever party brings it in. I mean, when you explain it to people, they go, God, that's a good idea. And you think, exactly, but it's just, I can't believe people out there are still voting for these
people are
parasites.
Still stuck with it being a party, you know, and we were trying to explain that you have to register as a party to get notice to enter an election and stuff like that. So, but we were trying to explain that it's different in the sense that if you have Fianna Fáil loyalties, that's great, keep them. But vote for a change of system with direct democracy.
Yeah.
Once the direct democracy system is in, the direct democracy party can disband for all I care. You know, it has reached its goal. The goal of direct democracy party is to bring direct democracy to the country, not really supply the country with a load of policies and everything.
Yeah. Just bring in the actual process.
Just bring in the system.
Yeah.
Change the system to direct democracy where the people are in charge, not the private corporations running the country for profit.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe when I heard there was a statement made by Michael Noonan there not so long ago, who was our finance minister, saying that somebody was telling him about what they were talking about austerity, and he said, the budget coming out, and he said, sew up your pockets and start laughing. And I think, the audacity of this man and the rest of them.
He's entitled to be audacious because, you see, he's gone to so many elections and he keeps getting back in and he keeps screwing the people that even he can't believe it. If I was in his booth, I'd have audacity too.
Yeah, I suppose.
No, it's just the truth that the Irish people aren't screwed enough, and I don't know when enough is going to be enough, if it'll ever be enough.
Well, I can't believe, you know, when people are losing their houses, I mean, one day last week alone, there was 80 repossessions in Trim.
Yeah.
80, and there's only 3 people, 3 people out of the 80 turned up. Now,
well, imagine if all 80 turned up and knew how to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It wouldn't become worthwhile for the banks.
Is it this kind of pride that people are? I'll just go, or they? Is it the pride?
That's what these corporations work on. They know good, hard-working people are ashamed to be in court for non-payment of a bill, so they play on that, even though they're gangsters. I mean, you're dealing basically with, you know, drug dealer types. I mean, at least drug dealers don't pretend to be anything else, so maybe I shouldn't insult drug dealers. But that's who you're dealing with in this corporate world. You're dealing with people who will prey on the weak. You know, they couldn't give a fuck if 3 children were put out on the side of the road in an hour to sleep. They don't care. They just want to know what was the profit in that.
Mm.
You know, the same way you look at them blowing up kids in Palestine and the Gaza Strip and these places. And I've seen a father crying over a child and the whole back of the head blown off. I mean, it was disgusting to watch. I had to turn it off real quick. And my eye wouldn't even focus. Then I realised what it was, you know, because I thought the child was just injured. And, you know, it took me a while to get over that, you know, if you ever really get over something like that. And then I just thought to myself, that's all for profit.
Yeah.
So if you realise that's who you're dealing with, and then people say, oh, well, this is a Fianna Fáil house, and you're thinking, you really don't get it, do you?
It's amazing.
You really no idea what I'm talking about. I'm Fianna Fáil too. You know, what's that got to do with anything?
This kind of cognitive dissonance from people, it's unbelievable. And you're right. You know, we are all part of the domino. You know, we're all in the line, and we might be different further down the line than others, but we're all in it. And again, you know, everybody keeps saying it. You know, they were looking for Sligo people, and I'm from Dublin, so I'm okay. They were looking for Kerry people, and I'm from Dublin, and then you know.
But not only that, you're saying, will it ever come to a stage where they fully realise? I don't know if it will or not, because they have the system so designed that we're not all in court at once. You see, like, you know, like 80 people in trim, but they're dispersed and people won't show up, right? And when them 80 people are fully screwed, right, then are they going to stand up for the next 80? They're going to have the attitude, oh, well, no one stood up for me, you know, blah, blah, that sort of attitude. So then the next 80 are in getting screwed, and because it's only the 80, it's not enough to make a stand. And that's the way the system works. So it keeps just picking you off, you know, just picking you off. So there's never this sort of mass revolt. So the people who think they're all right aren't all right. And basically, as I keep referring it to, it's like the Titanic. You know, there's people up on the top deck having prawn sandwiches, still listening to the orchestra, and there's people down the engine room with the water up to their necks, and there's all the floors in between. And the point is that it is hitting the iceberg, but maybe there'll be nobody left to actually, you know, fight for the lifeboats, because they're just picking them off one at a time. The people on the top floors can't hear the people, you know, because they're in the engine room, the water's up over their mouth now. And it'll happen the next floor and the next floor, and that's just the way it goes.
Well, there's one way that we could try and do it, and I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, but what we're trying to do, as I say, is to set up kind of a little local drop-in service or office for people to drop in and learn about it. And if we had them all around the country and everybody start learning the system and start challenging the banks slowly but surely, you'd probably find a turning of the tide, because people would say, well, hang on a minute, I am going to fight. I'm not just going to give them the house. If I lose the house, fine, but I'm going to fight before I lose the house, you know?
Yeah, well, that's why I was thinking of doing maybe a seminar or two, you know, just a couple of talks in hotels locally here to me. Because my time is kind of precious with the family and stuff like that as well. You know,
of course.
I haven't been doing as much of that as I should, but I've never done it kind of locally here. I've done one or two talks in the Red Cow where a good number of people have showed up. But you're talking in a very general sense about banking problems and the country's problems. But I think I should start doing a couple of seminars on banks, mortgages, and what you should do if you're in trouble. And, you know...
I think you should.
We tried to do that a long time ago, and very few people showed up. And again, it was the shame to be seen at such a meeting, you see.
No,
that's the problem too. The system has everybody destroyed at all different levels in every different way that they can.
Well, no, I think you should. I definitely think, I mean, you have our 100% backing on that. Doing seminars and promo and getting it out there and putting the word around, definitely. I mean, now's the time. I might get a leaflet printed. And just basically over the next, you know, few weeks, get them out to every housing estate, say in Navan, and maybe the Trim area, and say, look, on Tuesday night, whatever it is, in the Ardboyne Hotel. But then, of course, you could be just waiting there, maybe on 10 people show up. But I think it's good to try it anyway and see. So we may have to design the leaflet properly, where you say, look, don't be ashamed, everybody's in the same boat. But see, now's the time, Ben. Maybe 4 years ago it was different. But 4 years... ahead
of our time back then, but now the ordinary Joe on the street seems to kind of have some sort of angle that something's not right here.
Well, see, but now with the water meters going in, and people are now taking a stand and saying, well, I'm not paying this. I mean, even my own parents are buying, like I am, buying bottled water, because, you know, I'm not drinking that stuff from the tap, and yet they want me to pay for it, so I'm not going to pay for it. End of story. And that's... do you know what kind of annoys me a bit about that as well? Like, in Ireland, right, I mean, one thing now, of course, the last month has been great, but in general, right, it pisses here every day of the week. And, I mean, I have a big 100-litre rain butt at the side of just a little shed out the back. And that fills up, like, within a day, 100 litres, right? Now, if we ran our systems properly, you know, the house should be using all that water in the washing machines and the toilets and everything, but not for drinking, you know, not maybe for your shower. But here we are in a country where it just falls from the sky non-stop. And yet, we pay more for that than we do for petrol. And we keep giving out about the price of petrol. No, look, it's
the water is dearer than petrol in this country. That's just insanity.
It's farcical, it really is. But I think the whole Irish water thing is definitely the straw that broke the camel's back, because there's people who are fighting this that wouldn't have normally fought it. And I think they're the people now. Now the time is right to say, right, okay, this is the story with Irish water, and go in with the Irish water with a property charge. Because I thought that as well. you know, why aren't people getting up? But now it's the time to say, right, okay, let's sort this out. And all the people who are involved with the No Water campaign, you can kind of tie that in.
Yeah, maybe, because as I say, like, you know, 4 years ago when I did it, I think people just were not awake at all, you know.
No.
And maybe there has been a move on. I haven't tested the water from that point of view. I just seem to meet more people in trouble who come to me. But, you know, maybe it's time to do some sort of talk like that, you know.
I definitely think would be great, because we need more people educated with the legal system and more people studying it. Not just getting the templates and sending them off, but actually knowing what they're writing so they can stand up to it.
Ben actually gave me a help there out in the Red Cow. When we were there, he came out with all the microphone stuff, and I think he did the radio station live from the talk and that. And, you know, it was good. So it was, you know, it was a good crowd and all that.
Yeah.
But now that we're a couple of years on, you know, I think there'll be probably a bigger audience. Maybe not, but we'll see, you know, it's hard to judge.
I think there will, and to be honest with you, the Irish television network was brilliant, and I definitely think that should be done. And
as I say, we're going to take that back, because we think that's a powerful tool.
Big.
And, you know, the beauty about it is that we have been offered that it may go out on Sky Channel.
Yeah.
You know, so if we can get it up and running now, we just need a little help, you know, with guests and subjects and stuff like that.
Because, well, don't worry about
when we started, we just did a few test pilots to see what the TV broadcast thought of it, and they actually liked the format of the show.
Yeah.
They liked the Michael Noonan phone call. They liked a bit of humour in it, you know.
No, definitely. I mean, more than happy, because obviously the amount of guests that we've had on OYM over the last. I mean, I know there's particular guests that you want, and not all the guests.
That's right.
But
there's something about the visuals as well that you just can't do on radio, you know.
Well, it was Luke.
I mean, you're already missing my very handsome face.
There you go.
That's a blow for the kids already.
well, I tell you, when we interviewed Luke Radosky when we did the Sovereign Independent thing, Luke actually turned around to us and said, "Look, there's no point sending out information for people to read. They're not interested. Show them the visuals, a video. Everybody looks at the video."
Yeah. Look, if you see a book there and say to them, "Look, everything's in that, the chart," and they just don't bother. But if you show them a quick 10-minute video or something of it, they'll sit and watch it, because you can eat an apple, and you know, it's just so you can just say so many things you can do with video that you just can't do on radio.
Well, we'll talk off air about the guests and stuff. We can definitely help you with that. That's no problem. Very quickly before we let you go, I did mention that. And you did promise me you'd have me out in 20 minutes, but anyway, that's me. I'm a bit of a chatterbox. No, that's okay. It's all education. A friend of mine got a fine of €150, right? She from a litter warden. She was driving her car, and apparently he spotted some paper coming out of a car, and she got a fine from a county litter warden for €150. No evidence, no proof or anything. Just a fine. Isn't that ridiculous? Yeah, well, Bill of Rights clearly say fine before conviction is unlawful. Well, don't worry, we'll be challenging that anyway. Right, Ben, listen, we let you go because we know you're busy, you know you have a case on, but before you go, give us all your contact information, and Steve will help us out there with the information that he has. No problem. Well, if people want to email, my email is trysueme@gmail.com. Right, okay. And People for Economic Justice? Oh, People for Economic Justice, on the website there, you can contact us through that. And on Ireland's Independent Network is the TV station, and there's an email for that. I think it's irelandsindependentnetwork@gmail.com as well. Right. So if people want to come on the show or suggest people for the show. But we will have a mobile number, as I said to you, Al, and as soon as we know that, because I think people, even, you have to make it easy for them. And I think if you can just give a number for the show, so we get a SIM card that's just especially for the show, for people to ring, and we'll organise that, and then when the next show is running, we'll put that number up always on the screen. Yeah, well, if there's anything that we can help out from a technical point of view, give us a shout, let us know, and you can pick our brain. It's free. Whatever there. Steve, do you want to read out that information? Yeah, just Ben, thanks again for the information. It's brilliant. Loads of people are coming on there saying you're a breath of fresh air, and you are. You educate. You like, as I said before, you like. One of the greats, the likes of Bill Hicks or any of those, you educate through laughter, and it's brilliant, and your delivery method is fantastic. You should be on the stage, really. But anyone who wants to support Ben and Isabella, that's Ben's daughter, there's going to be a benefit night, music and entertainment, a great crack guaranteed on 15th of August, the Friday the 15th of August, 2014, Trimcastle Hotel.
from 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available from Trimcastle. They're only €10, a mere €10. You can get them from Trimcastle. You can also get them from the Hub, 21 Little Mary Street in Dublin. The phone numbers for more details are 087 066 1971 and 087 257 6637. And as you said yourself, Ben, if people can't make it, if they have a couple of quid in their pocket, you will accept donations because it's going to a good cause.
Yeah, and also, you know, if people want to, you know, worry about coming and having a few drinks and can't drive home, I think the hotel are doing a special on that night as well. So I'm not sure of the details, but I'd say the hotel will tell you what they are.
And if you do go near hash lines, the police will probably give you a personal escort.
Yeah, you'll be all right with hash lines there.
All right, Ben, stay with us there.
I've educated them around this neck of the woods.
Excellent. All right, stay with us.
Thanks everybody listening.
Okay, stay with us there for a minute, Ben, and we'll just go to a musical break. We'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
And we're back. A little bit of Culture Club there. People didn't like the song I played earlier, so a bit of Culture Club, Church of the Poisoned Mind, a good song from 1980 something.
That was a good song, yeah. 80s again. Listen, you know we're not a music show.
Yeah.
You know, where we play music, but we're not like one of these, you know, up-to-date music.
Even though Alan does have the best of Al Doonican sitting here on the desk. I said no.
In my rocking chair. My rocking chair. Brilliant information from Ben. What can I say? It's always a great, more than welcome to be on the show. Great information and educational, and I do hope that he goes ahead and does the seminars, because I think it's the right time now. Maybe 4 years ago was different. People weren't in the position they are, but the way things are now with austerity and the water meters and the LPT, I think they're just fed up with it. I think we're all just fed up of being screwed by the government. Not one banker's gone to jail, but people are going to jail for TV licence. I mean, that's just ridiculous, and that's how corrupt the system is. It has to stop. So the only way we're going to do it is to fight back. Start learning the law, fight back the system, say no consent. Because apparently, as I said last week, that the Irish government are beginning to think, hang on a minute, we're jailing people, it's taking us time, it's costing us money to do that, and we're not getting anything for it. So what we need to do is stop that and start chasing after where the revenue is. Now, that's going to be quite a challenge, because you start shutting down your bank account and go, well, actually, I'm going to start bartering now with people. And I'll have 2 hens, and I'll swap your 2 hens for your sheep or whatever, you know, whatever the bartering's going to be. And
how was your daughter?
No, that would be for, you know, other kind of people in the government. But I think, you know, the whole time banking bartering thing's going to be coming in, and you can't, as far as I'm concerned, legally stop people from bartering. And even if you could, they did bring in some kind of trumped up law for that. How can you prove it that they were bartering? And, you know, so there you go. That's the way it is. But very, very good interview. Now, next week we have a chap on called Michael Bernicia. And Michael, I think that's how you pronounce it, Michael Bernicia. And we'll be talking about all things bigger, what's going on in the world globally, New World Order, and everything that's going on. I mean, it's quite interesting to say what's going on with the BRICS countries and this kind of plane crash that we had with the MH17 and the other plane that went missing, the MH370. And there was another aircraft crash, Algerian plane went down as well. I don't know if that's anything related or that was just purely an accident, I don't know. But all these things are happening, and every week now there seems to be so much going on. And as you know by their list when we read it out, it's now taking us longer and longer to read out the things that are going on. But there you go. There's just so much going on at the moment. What can you say?
Yeah, no, there is. So as you know, like some of the people that I work with, they're close-minded. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. They're more interested in talking, and I mentioned this before, they're more interested in talking about football, soaps, TV programs. They can't get enough of it. There's a new TV program coming on now very shortly on Sky. I don't know what it is, but they were all talking about it last week, and you know, they're all looking forward to it. And as someone actually mentioned, I think it was Snowflake mentioned there on the chat there earlier, like, people need to wake up. We need to wake people up. How do we do it though? I mean, as I just typed in, you know, gently, but it's getting more difficult when you see the amount of TV. It's not just TV, but it's radio as well. Now people kind of say, oh well, no, you watch TV, but you know, radio has a hell of a lot to do with it as well, because if you listen to, no, I don't, but if you listen to any of the online no, sorry, not even online, the mainstream, the FM stations, anywhere in Ireland, you will be bombarded with every hour on the hour. You'll get the news, and I mean, talk about, as we mentioned at the top of the show, subversive techniques and all that. If you keep hearing the same news, no matter what it may be, even if it's if it's untrue, you keep hearing that every hour on the hour, and you even get the updates every half hour, then by the end of a day, without even realising it, you've been programmed to believe what the information is, was as we say, whether it's true or whether it's untrue, because you've heard it repeated and it's repetitive and it's it's there all the time. Even when you think you're not listening to it, or the news is on again and it's just there in the background, you are getting programmed. And as Snowflake said, how are we going to wake people up? It is difficult. I genuinely don't know, but as I say, what I do, and I know Alan does the same, is we just plant seeds. Not even big seeds, small seeds. And my father is doing the same thing as well. Like with people he comes into contact with, the bee in his bonnet at the moment is chemtrails. And all he does is, when he's talking to people, and if the plane happens to be flying over, spraying its chemicals, my father just said, "My God, what do you think is in that?" And people, they usually go, it's just the condensation, or it's just the exhaust. And then with the information that he has, he just challenges that, and he says, "Well, no, because an exhaust would just dissipate after a few minutes. No, there's something more with that. I think there's more involved." And he just plants seeds, and people say, no, you're one of these conspiracy nuts, and of course I get that as well. But you just say to people, well, I tell you what, go home and have a look and see what you think yourself. But that's all I do. I just give people a little bit of information, as if I bring in the conversation as if everybody knows about it. And then when they challenge me, I kind of go, well, Jesus, I know about it. Everyone I know is talking about it. Well, you don't know about it. All right, you might want to bone up on it, go home and check it out or something, and just do it that way. And but it is getting more difficult because there's so much TV. I mean, I'm sure Alan remembers. I think both of us are old enough to remember when the television stations, they closed at night. They actually shut down. Some could have been 11 o'clock, could have been half 11, 12, whatever. But they did actually shut down. And now, well, they have been doing it for a long time. They were going 24 hours. And I'm old enough to remember in Ireland when we had one TV channel. And then we had two. And I think eventually then we had six. And now there's just so many. There's thousands of the damn things. And it's just the same stuff getting hashed, thrown out there time after time. And
it's the distraction game.
It is distraction, but it's distraction through subversion, I think. Based on what I said again at the beginning with the Richard D. Hall YouTube video that I seen, he explains it beautifully, and you're getting desensitized the whole time. It's mind-boggling. But we have to try and be a step ahead and just keep planting seeds, people, or just get a big stick and hit them with it.
Yeah, wake up our kids. Who's on with Vin tonight, Steve?
I'm glad you asked, because I actually know. Sometimes I don't. Tonight on the People's Internet Radio, Vin is going to be going through his incredible audio. That's the LPT. I'm guessing it's the LPT, the audio clip that he done with them during the week. So anyone who hasn't heard it, do stay tuned. After we leave the studio for Vin. He's also going to be joined with John McCann for an in-depth chat regarding the same, that is the LPT audio, and many other topics of relevance. So don't miss it. It's going to be solutions, as Vin says.
Brilliant. We need to be learning the law. We need to G up, because I know they're getting worried. They are, as Ben said, the lay litigants are beginning to learn the law because we have to. And, okay, sometimes we might lose, but hey, it's just sometimes, we talked about this before, it might be a little bit inconvenient, but at the end of the day, I suppose we have to do what we do and wake people up. And, I'm trying to, I have a member of the family who's involved with the Gardai, and I'm kind of subtly dropping hints as well to wake up to what's going on. Because the argument was, well, what we're trying to teach people is to let off the the nasty people so they don't go to court. And I said, not at all. This is about helping people like their mums and dads and their family members who are law-abiding people and who are being screwed. You know, I mean, common law still applies, harm, loss or injury. At the end of the day, if there's gurries out there hitting people, well, they need to be locked up. That's it. That's the job. They're peace officers. And they stand up for our rights. That's their job, not revenue enforcers, which is what they become. But we've hit that time, so we're going to go. Take care, have a safe week, take it easy, enjoy the weather if it's sunny where you are, and we'll catch you again. This is Alan James saying good night, take it easy, bye-bye.
Okay, and for myself, Stephen George, it's been a great evening, and again, Ben, the information is just beautiful. It's delivered with a tongue-in-cheek sense of humour, and I think that's how people learn. It really is. Anyway, stay tuned for Vin on PIR, and we'll do it all again next week. Take care, bye-bye.
Open your mind.